Hello, everyone. Welcome to the monthly technical steering committee from the Linux Foundation Project EVerest. Have a packed update for you again. Quite some things happened. We have a couple of conferences, Power to Drive and more, where we collected some feedback, also relevant for this project, but at least for everyone using this project. There was a Charin technical festival in the US, and there was also a workshop around this. The April release got now published and got quite little feedback, which is good. So it's quite stable. Our CPP 1.6 certification is on track, and we're also doing great progress on the framework. If you're interested in any details, there will be in the YouTube recording jump marks below, so you can jump forward and backward. Yeah, but let's dive directly into it. But before we do that, quickly showing the antitrust policy. So there could be competitors here in the room, so please behave. Yeah, and let's go. Let's start with what's new. We have a couple of companies who now publish they're building chargers based on the EVerest product. That is the Enphase IQ2. I think that is a AC home charger, which is now public. A NEDEC DC charger, 360 kilowatts, so typical highway one, and amplified, known for a lot of AC wall boxes, also released, I think, 1 week ago, the new DC charger setup with a central power cabinet and dispensers, and also that will be EVerest-based. And there's more to come. And I think the Siemens BD home charger, I think we announced last time. No change on the list of supported EVSE controllers and dev kits. For both of those lists, let us know if you're working on anything and want to get the word spread, because this is positive for you to be named, and we're happy to add you here. Quick recap, what happened over the last weeks on events, and let's start with the Power to Drive. And I think this is at least Europe's biggest show on EV charger, as well as solar and batteries. Entire trade show in Munich, which is 20, 30 big buildings full of stuff. And there have been quite some charger makers. It was also a big event for EVerest. There was a lot of discussions around the new R4 updates, alternate fueling infrastructure regulation, which will make ISO-20 mandatory starting 1st January 2027. Weird Pionics also creating currently a blog post with further reading on that. Happy to share it also on the mailing list that might be relevant for many companies. And we see a lot of charger vendors out there looking now for a solution how to build R4 compliant wall boxes, because they are hit hardest on this, in particular wall boxes. And there are quite a few now looking really close on EVerest or even started working. Not public yet, but I expect something to come. We see people are more and more tightly integrating things, getting less cables, getting more stuff on a PCB, building more compact and cheaper chargers. And we see Linux controllers quite a bit on the rise because of things like this RFA regulation, which will make the ISO-20 mandatory, or things like the regulation in California, which basically makes OCP 2.01 mandatory. And we also see a lot of tenders doing that kind of requirements. And that's just easier to do on a Linux system. We also talked to a couple of vendors who now pedaling back on microcontroller-based chargers and going all in on Linux. We also had a quite packed EVerest Stammtisch, or community gathering. I think 40, 50 people in the room. But also great to change ideas here. Then I think Shankari is not here. Double check. No. There was a festival from Sharon in Detroit. You are, oh, Shankari, haven't seen you. You're unknown.
Yeah,
So please tell yourself.
yeah, so the Charin Festival was in Detroit this time. We were too late to be an official SECC. All of those slots were taken by early March, and we were only able to start talking to them about potentially participating in late March. But we sponsored an open source testing booth We took a micro-megawatt charger that was loaded with a custom Yocto image from the March release. And since we were participating, we installed the object certs. So that worked fine. And we were able to plug into 2 cars, a Rivian vehicle and a charge bike bus. We also heard, I'm not sure if I am authorized to name the other people who are using this, but we heard from several other people at Testival that they are already using EVerest at least for testing. In fact, on the second day, I spent an hour helping somebody install the new version of EVerest on their micro-megawatt charger, which they had brought there. So I was like, I need to start charging for technical support now. But after that, there was an EVerest talk at the Open Charging Workshop. About 50 people online and 40 people, 50 people on site and 40 people online. There were several follow-on audience questions. There was significant interest. And there was some discussion after that about a potential open source EVCC. If we could get it, that would be really great. But we have to wait and see if that ends up happening.
Amazing, thanks a lot. I think this entire EVCC discussion, we should also bring to the EV Charging Special Interest Group, kind of our mother organization on top of EVerest. I think they're also meeting next week. Cool, thank you, Shankari. And thank you for traveling there and spreading EVerest and doing the tech support.
Well, I said EVerest won several of the prizes at the previous Charin. And if other people are not able to travel, we're a community, we can always have someone show up and represent our project.
Thank you. And I was actually at the same day, I think a couple of hours before you'd presented, I was here in Stuttgart on the electric vehicle conference. That was also a reason why I couldn't travel. Basically, more scientific conference, a lot of talks around EVs and mainly EV charging. There was a panel discussion which I joined together with EnBW and BP, 2 of the, I think, number 1 and number 3 in the at least German CPO market, maybe even Europe. So let's say it's 2 really, really big CPOs together with me on stage, together with some more from the scientific community. Topics have been bidirectional charging. Let's see how we can integrate that better. The economics of charging, megawatt charging, cars and trucks, how to do that. A lot of discussion about cyber resilience and reliability. And the scientific community was really eager to see what can they do in order to help with the situation. So they're eager to know of potential research topics. So we as industry and scientific community here at EVerest, I think we're the perfect breeding bed to get those discussions connected. EV Charging Special Interest Group, Robert.
Yeah, normally I catch up on what happened in the last call, but as we move this one, the next one is next week. So please join next week. I will give an update of 2 calls next time.
I think the problem is, I think EVerest is always at the 4th Thursday a month, and you always on the last Thursday a month, and that's often.
We are on the Wednesday.
Yeah, so often on the last Wednesday, and this is often like the same week, except if you have a 5-week month, then it's not matching. Something like that.
Can also be the case. Yeah, I will manage.
Seriously.
But
cool.
Guys, please join. I will give an update next time of 2 calls.
Cool. Okay, EVerest framework updates. Pete.
Right, there's a separate section for EVerest framework updates this time because quite some things were happening there. On the development update, you can see some pull requests that have been merged this month. There had been more, but this is the selection of the most important ones. We have, we are now using like proper C++ types to actually pass the EVerest config. There was a lot of raw JSON handling going on, and that was kind of the requirement we saw to actually get the database integration working and make everything a lot more stable and bring it into a better state. That allowed us also to parse these new types from JSON into the new types to be able to operate on them, which is PR 257. In Rust, it has been added to ignore variables and errors. So there's now a separate section in the manifest that you can use to add those ignoring of variables and errors. We also, after we added like the types and the parsing, we also changed the whole parsing and validation of the JSON config, of the EVerest config, using these new types. So that was quite a big pull request that has now been merged. I think we're pretty close with merging PR 255, which is migrating to Basel 8. Quello was mainly working on this, and I think it was at least already approved by Holger. And I think Kai is also looking at this. And then PR 256 and 267 actually built upon what I have mentioned already, what we have been done in the framework. So this type and JSON parsing and config parsing refactoring. We got started with this to actually implement an SQLite database driver to be actually to actually boot EVerest from database, read variables for modules from the database to allow for runtime configuration, but also sharing of the module configuration across several EVerest modules, for example, to use this as part of OSPP and the device model reporting.
Let's continue.
Yep. On the grid integration energy management side, there's not too much to update. There was one fix that I wanted to mention here, which was that we did not limit the current of power and the power supply when in certain cases when the EV was still requesting values via ISO 15118 that were higher than we reported it in the current demand response. So they were basically resetting. That was fixed using that PR. The EVerest PR is still in review. I heard it's quite far, so I hope we can say that it's merged in the next TSC. We identify another issue that we're currently still working on, which is a conflict between the limits enforced by the energy management and the hardware capabilities we receive from the board support or also the power supply. It's a little bit related to the first PR that I mentioned here, but we're currently still investigating and trying to reproduce this. All right. The cloud communication working group on the Pionic side, we are currently focusing on getting the 1.6 stack certified. So not in combination with actual hardware, but only the stack. We added some adoptions that are listed here. I heard that we now pass all the test cases and basically wait for a date for the certification, and we have set up everything to run the software in the loop with the stack, which is quite nice because it's a nice package bundle that we can maybe use also for other purposes, or it's very interesting also for CSMSs to use because it's just very, very easy to set up. It comes in a Docker format and it brings like Mosquito with it and all the database stuff that you need, a new Node-RED control UI, and even an FTP server if you want to play around with firmware updates and log uploads. So this is all like bundled and can be shipped as a Docker image and immediately be used. Other than that, there is a refactor going on for the composite schedule calculation for Connect to Zero. It's a minor, like the PR is quite large, but the issue is rather minor, which touches the composite schedule calculation for Connect to Zero. where the specification has a requirement to not go higher than the sum of all EVSEs together if connect to 0 is requested. And that's something that we have added for 201 in the past, and we're now adapting this to 1.6 as well. We plan to dynamically initialize the EVSE and connector components of the device model in OSPP 201. So right now, basically, if you have 2 EVSEs, you also have to prepare your JSON component configs for this. If you have 3 EVSEs, you have to set up 3 of those. But actually, we have all the information available in EVerest when EVerest starts up to actually dynamically initialize those components so that we only have these standardized OCPP components left. And what we already have in EVerest, we try to collect all the information that we need on startup, and then we report and update this automatically. Then Compleo started to actually contribute to OSPP 2.1. They participated in the cloud communication working group for the first time, and they plan to work on OSPP 2.1 bidirectional together with us. So once we are done with 1.6 certification, we will also return back to 2.1 and split the use cases there. And I think that's very good news. And yeah, the last 2 points basically catch up on what I have already said. The device model reporting and integration is something that we are working on the framework side, but of course also within the OSPP modules. And yeah, these points summarize that.
Quick extension, I think on OCPP 2.01, we know, I think, at least 4 of the EVerest/Pionix users and hardware manufacturers based on that have already certified that successfully. So, but let's say this is the first time we know someone is certifying 1.6. So that's also why we started with the old one, because on the 2.01, we're really confident that we're passing.
Yeah, and we are certifying the full feature set of 1.6. So everything that you can do, and we try to find a complex setup with 2 charging points, DC, including ISO. So we try to find a complicated setup to get all feature profiles certified. And for 201, I think we have core, advanced security, and ISO 15118 blocks certified, and smart charging, I think.
Yeah, and then we also green on all the test tool things. So this is beyond. Cool. Car communication. Let's go.
Sure, I'll pick that up. Some small work on EVerest Core regarding car communication. The first one Peter already mentioned, the target current. The second one, EV, to keep the EV plug, that is for the simulation of hard resets or power losses. It's nothing functional for the normal operation. Third one, the 1154, is just some minor fix in the state machine of the EVSE manager. And the 1173 is just for the continuous integration on GitHub, which does not support IPv6, so had to skip some tests there. More importantly, the core library for the -20 work, the libiso 15118, has got a new release. A lot of EV messages were added there, which is the work in progress we mentioned below, the EV side implementation. Furthermore, pause resume. The pause resume feature was merged, and otherwise just some small infrastructure changes and one minor crash. The Joseph, likewise, also pause resume for EV side was implemented there, and there was some extensions for the MCS was done. The service IDs need to be defined, as also in the libiso 15118. We'll mention that on a separate slide, but that's already basically the heart of what has happened there. And also we're looking for help on integrating the Asian standards, the GBT Xiaojai.
Yeah, I think on the charger, maybe we can take that quickly. There's an open source implementation done by a big Chinese, I would say, semi-official consortia. So maybe a bit comparable with what the Joint Office did on smart charging and OCPP. This consortia is or has created a libchargy, I think it's called. It's unfortunately from a Western perspective behind a great Chinese firewall, but it will get a copy. Put ideally even within the GitHub structures. So we're now looking for people who help integrating that as alternative state machine, as alternative to ISO 15118. That doesn't mean that EVerest is always deploying this code into a production charger, but if you build your configuration in a way that you want to enable ChargeE, then it should be possible. That means you can build hybrid chargers between CCS and ChargeE with, let's say, the official supported stack. And if there's anyone interested in getting that going and potentially even as hardware for that, please let us know. And one further comment on Joseph. I think you kind of indicated that Joseph is not here to stay. We try to get Joseph out. We so far only use it for simulating cars. And as soon as we got that covered by other code base, it can finally retire. I think on Switch EV side, it already retired. I think we're the only one maintaining this, as far as we know.
Exactly. That's why the C++ implementations in the libISO 15118 are taking place, because they will do especially the XE encoding and the state machines and everything in C++, so that it could practically be used for a real EV as well. Yes, but first, it'll be a simulation. Continuing on to MCS, I already mentioned this. Not much work has happened recently because the core is basically there and waiting to be tested. So as mentioned in the different libraries, the service IDs for MCS were added. And you see one of them is still an open pull request. So right now, the ChargeByte efforts on MCS are actually waiting for actual hardware and to go into testing with that and pulling all that up. And until then, it's sort of stalled unless someone else is doing something or willing to pick this up and do some testing with it.
Yeah. So anyone working on MCS, please join. So let's continue. On the VMT team, nothing happened, nothing to report, which is good news. And yeah, in the background, the team is still working on the penetration testing together with the external consultancy, as mentioned a couple of TSCs ago. And it's intentionally that they work behind closed doors, and when they're done, we are looking forward to get an update. So monthly release notes. We're now at a minor release this month. Just as a quick reminder, in 2 months, we will do the consolidated release again. The April release just got out, and we got, as I mentioned initially, good news. Means there's no one complaining, so it looks really, really stable. And yeah, but anyway, there's another snapshot. So let's go in. Pete or Kai.
Kai is not here, so I will take over.
Okay.
Yeah, the May release is upcoming after the consolidated April release is out. You can see a couple of selected PRs in this list. I won't read them out. Read out every single one. A few of them still touch like OSPP 1.6 related stuff. Those were mainly things that we needed for the simulation to actually get it going. Those were no issues with real hardware. Yeah, there were a couple of things that were improved on the Slack side, and the PWM timeout basically was default timeout when we started, was adapted in the 1182 PR. Yeah, and there's more, and we have a few days until we actually release it.
Yeah, the typical to be released soon trademark. Thank you. So what's next? In the roadmap section, Pete, I think you did some polishing. Do you want to highlight some of them out?
Yeah, so on the OSPP side, it did not change much compared to last time, but we have started to work on the device model integration. I mentioned that before, and also on OSPP 2.1, the BPT support. The core is already done. It's still on the feature branch, but considered done. Yeah, the smart charging function block is very, very big, but we think that we have the most important use cases already covered with set charging profile and get composite schedule where new function requirements came. Yeah, and then in Q3, Q4, we will look more into other and new functional blocks of OSPP 2.1. But yeah, for now, we're focusing on BPT and smart charging.
On ISO.
Yeah. Yeah, Moritz mentioned it. The pause resume is done and in review. Now that we are looking into the bidirectional also from the OSPP side again, it'll probably be Martin who will also look at ISO 50118-20 at the same time to support Sebastian a little bit on this side. I think it makes sense now more and more to actually work more closely together also between these stacks since there's so much data to be shared. So we have already a good setup for this, and this will be extended with the new features that we implement. Also, some changes in the EVSE manager need to be done, and we have already started with this. Sebastian is currently working on 15118-20, the AC part, the AC state machine. And then after that, in Q3, we will look into the V2X DC set point and more advanced features of 15118-20 and maybe also in -2 based on market requirements, because there are a few things that we have not implemented yet, like certificate update and smart charging for the -2. And yeah, we'll see if this is required in the future. Yep. On the energy management side, the EVerest PR I mentioned already, it's still open but very far. We have now finished adding support for the set point and frequency control in the energy management. So we can now add these features on the ISO and OSPP side. And I think ChargeByte Moritz is still working on the external EMS API module, right?
That's correct. That's still just a few weeks out, probably.
Yeah. And yeah, after that, we'll see also based on market requirements if we enhance the EEBus stack with further use cases, maybe look into OpenADR and other things.
OpenADR, wasn't there something from ELAT, or has that paused?
I also heard about this, but I don't know if Robert knows more. I think it was a research project, but I'm not sure if EVerest was actually planned to be involved there.
The idea was to make a wrapper around the Rust library to make it easier to integrate into other things. That's the last thing I recall. We are having a discussion with EV Charging SIG to add the Open Leader project into the EV Charging SIG, but that's a different discussion.
Yeah, there is also a pull request to add OpenADR to EVerest. It was opened by
probably.
Yeah, but we are waiting for some feedback on that PR. And they said, well, they will get back to it when they find some time, but that was already a couple of weeks ago. So.
Cool. Upcoming events. What's next? So unfortunately, the EVS 38 hackathon got cancelled. That's not so nice news, but let's see. Maybe there will be also other hackathons later. So other upcoming events, Pionix is doing a webinar on ChargeBridge, which is a Basecamp or EVerest boosting controller. That's next week, Tuesday. There's a Giant Festival in France in June. There's OCA Plug Fest in June in Korea. and there will be something in July in India. I think EVS-38 will be quite interesting in Göteborg. Based on the experience from Korea, a lot of people are meeting there. Then for the summer break, maybe there are still tickets available. There's a big European hacker camping. So think of it like Burning Man, but just in Netherlands, so more green. And I think it will be quite fun. And ICNC in Berlin is also later in September. And also LF Energy is having their annual summit in September in Aachen. And if you know about any other events, if you're joining any of those events, please let us know. We're happy to list you here. We're happy to list the events here. And yeah, EVerest will be around. And next time we're meeting with the EVerest Technical Steering Committee is in 5 weeks from now. So this time it's a bit longer, 26th of June. Or just join the weekly, bi-weekly working group calls. You'll find all of that on our everest.github.io page. There's a subsection about those meetings, or just join the mailing list, or then you also get a reminder for all those Zoom calls. Yeah, thanks for all of that. And let's stop the recording, go into the discussion, and see you soon.